In 1966, Jackie DeShannon sang a song called "What the World Needs Now Is Love, Sweet Love." And it was a rough period, those late 60s, early 70s. But today, it's rougher than ever. We are divided right down the middle. All for many reasons: political, religious, color, orientation, all of it. It's a rough time. But you know, love remains the answer. Let's talk about love today. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Connection here at Unity Gresham. Love. That's a word that is bandied about all the time. And if you look around, you start to think, well, maybe people don't really know what it means, huh? Maybe people don't really have an idea of what they mean when they're saying, let's love everybody. Well, I'm going to share with you today a really good starting point for any of you who really want to get a grasp on what love actually means in this world today. It begins with a passage in the book of Matthew in the Gospels, and it reads, "And one of them, a lawyer, asked him," meaning Jesus, "a question to test him. 'Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?' And he said to him, 'You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. It's the same. You will love your neighbor as yourself.'" So that comes from Jesus. That's the beginning. But over in 1 Corinthians 13, allegedly composed by our friend St. Paul, he gives us an idea of what unconditional love really is. And when you hear this, if you're not familiar with 1 Corinthians 13, when you first hear this, it almost sounds pie in the sky. But this is what unconditional love is, and it's the reason it's so hard for most of us to live up to it. But it has to be our ultimate goal, to love unconditionally. So let me share with you what Paul says about it. He says, "If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body as a martyr to be burned so that I may boast about it, but do not have love, nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for the prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For, and this is key, for we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke as a child, thought like a child, reasoned like a child. When I became adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror darkly, but then we shall see face to face. Now I know only in part. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love." I want to point out just a couple of sections in here that are extremely important for us to remember here. It says, love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful, which flies in the face of most traditional views of an angry God. Keep this in mind when somebody starts shouting to you, God's going to send you to hell for that. Remind them, 1 Corinthians 13, love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. The other one I want to point out is this: for now we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. You know what that means? It means that nobody really knows what the heck they're talking about. When you hear people on television, on the internet, screaming and saying, "God told me to tell you this," turn and run. There's an old saying, expression that says, "Hear him who says he seeks truth, run from him who says he's found it." All right? Love is the answer, always. And if you want to look for a practice, a love practice, go right straight to 1 Corinthians 13, and you'll have a complete blueprint. All right? It's as simple as that. We need to understand that right now, more than ever, as angry as we can get with our politicians, with our preachers, with our neighbors, with red hats, all of it, as angry as we can get with that, we need to look within ourselves and say, wait a minute. Am I practicing love? And if I am not practicing love, which simply means, and it all boils down to this, my friends, we do the least harm and the most good. That is love in action. Is it universal unconditional love? Probably not, because we only know in part, right? The only way we will ever know fully is when we come to understand unconditional love in a way that we have never done so far. But we can begin right here and right now with that little practice. Do the least harm and the most good. And all you have to do every time you move about the world, every time you're going to do anything, you simply ask yourself, am I harming or am I helping? If you keep that practice in front of you, love will become more and more and more a way of life for you. And as Gandhi said, we must be the peace that we would see in the world. Beginning right here and right now, we only know in part, but this is a good start. Right here from the heart. Do the least harm and the most good. And watch how not only your life, but your outlook changes. Be grateful that you can look out on the world and say, I'm doing the least harm and the most good. And so it is. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is love. All is well. Namaste. Oh, one more thing before we leave you today. We have a number of birthdays coming up among our Unity Gresham family over the next couple of weeks. Our Aquarian family. Dorothy Jones, our esteemed music director. Dina Wright, one of our close friends. And of course, yours truly. And I have the honor of sharing my birth date, February 4th, with the wonderful Rosa Parks. Now, she's a little older than me. She was born in 1913. But I honor her, and I am privileged to share the same birthday with her. And so it is. Namaste again.